Good afternoon and thank you for joining us. This is KTN Newsdesk with the very latest from Kenya and beyond. My name is Ian Wafula. And some of the stories are making headline at this hour. We go to Nyeri, where about 2,000 nurses in Nyeri County have this morning down their tools of what they claim is the county government's non-committal in addressing their plight. The Kenya National Union of Nurses had issued a strike notice yesterday at Nyeri Referral Hospital grounds. Nyeri chairperson Ann Nyawira said that all union members and nurses and other health workers have stopped work as the county has failed to implement annual increase in pay. Nyawira said that the county government has failed to remedy the shortage of nurses in health facilities and immediately replace diseased and retired workers. The health workers said the salary should be paid by the 5th of every month. They say that medical staff will paralyze service in all the health facilities in the county until the demands are met. And moving on, an inmate has been beaten to death by a colleague at the Kingongo prison. Police say that the two convicts were fighting after failing to agree on how to share money they had conned an outsider. Peter Gashau, who was serving as on a life sentence for robbery with violence, attacked his colleague Shem Karaoke, who had been jailed for rape. Nyeri Central Police boss Charles Rotich said that the disease was smashed with a hammer and died instantly. Prisoners have been engaging in con games using mobile phones by duping unsuspecting mobile users that end up in prison receiving money via mobile money transfer services.
It was around 4:00 a.m. when we received a report of a murder inside the prison. And actually we sent an officer to go and investigate what happened. We found the cause of the death was a dispute between two inmates.
Our reporter Karen Derry is following more on that. Just let's go back to a top story where about 2,000 nurses in Nyeri County have this morning down their tools over what they claim is the county government's non-committal in addressing their plight. The Kenya National Union of Nurses had issued a strike notice yesterday at Nyeri Referral Hospital grounds. Nyeri chairperson Ann Nyawira said that all union members, nurses and other health workers have stopped work as the county has failed to implement the annual increase in pay. Nyawira said that the county government has failed to remedy the shortage of nurses in health facilities and immediately replace diseased and retired workers. The health workers said their salaries should be paid by the 5th of every month. They said that medical staff will paralyze the services in all the health facilities in the county until their demands are met.
For the union makes us strong.
Again?
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong.
Services are paralyzed in the whole of Nyeri County. Yes. So, what we want to urge the community at large is that if you have a patient in the hospital, just know that there are no services. Go there, know what you're going to do with your patient, because we are not working until our demands are met.
Also, East African leaders are studying a draft peace agreement on South Sudan before the warring parties can sign it. The international lead mediator, C. Mesfin, gave the factions until today to sign the deal without room for extension. The two sides are yet to agree on power sharing. East African leaders last night held a 5-hour meeting ahead of the signing.
East African leaders are in Ethiopia in a last-ditch effort to convince South Sudan's warring sides to sign a peace deal. The leaders have been ramping up pressure before today's deadline to end a 20-month civil war. They are expected to be joined by representatives of the international community to sign a compromise deal on power sharing and other contentious issues. The agreement proposes a 3-year interim period as a solution to the conflict. The rebels would also be allocated a first vice president and the government the presidency, while an 18-month period would be set to integrate both armies. It also proposes to hand the rebels the lion's share of power in the Unity, Upper Nile and Jonglei regions. It also suggests the demilitarization of the capital Juba, a call Kiir's government has rejected. The rebels are seeking an extension to other regional capitals. Numerous rounds of negotiations have failed to end hostilities that have killed over 10,000 people.
I just want to just understand this issue of South Sudan. Of course, we've seen a civil war going on since 2013, and we've had quite over about 1.6 million people displaced and thousands of others dead from this particular incident. I'm now joined via Skype by South Sudan campaigner Tagwa. If you can hear me, why has this peace deal between the two factions taken quite a long time?
Indeed, the warring parties have on various issues since IGAD started mediating and facilitating the peace talks in Addis. They have disagreed on the structure of the transitional governments of national unity. They've disagreed on issues concerning the time frame of the unification of forces and issues of federalism, other issues of power sharing, and issues to do with demilitarization of Juba and other major towns. And even as of today, these are still issues that both parties are disagreeing on. Now, IGAD has convened a heads of states level summit in Addis today, and they hope to bring both parties to the conflict to agree on a consensus and a way to ending the hostilities that have devastated South Sudan for almost 2 years now.
What are we expecting at the end of this meeting? Should they not sign this particular deal, what next for South Sudan?
I mean, a peace agreement offers a lot of hope for South Sudanese. As I have said, this conflict has devastated thousands of people. Thousands of people have survived brutal human rights violations, including mass killings, watching their relatives die, issues like rape and other forms of sexual violence. Children have been abducted and even recruited to the armed forces. So a peace agreement will be a way to end the hostilities, get the guns to go silent, and also offer a hope for South Sudanese to be able to go back home, rebuild their lives, and also for the government to be able to offer reparations and ensure persons are held accountable for atrocities that have been committed in the context of this conflict. And in that regard, we definitely hope that by the end of the day, the parties will come to a consensus and agree to end the hostilities such that, you know, South Sudanese can finally rest easy and move on to another chapter of trying to rebuild their lives, and also for persons responsible to be held accountable.
Maybe if we could talk a bit about the sanctions that might be put in place. Of course, you and they are saying that if they don't, if they fail to agree, South Sudan may face sanctions. Do these two parties know about this, and don't they care about this?
Sanctions have been threatened many times. In fact, November 2014, IGAD had threatened asset freezes and sanctions and even an arms embargo against the country and also against persons responsible for violating the ceasefire. And so in that, so far, six SPLA generals from both sides of the conflict were sanctioned by the UN Security Council last month, and the US and the UK and Norway have also sanctioned solid steps such as the establishment of a hybrid court, solid steps such as, getting South Sudan's neighbors to be responsible for implementing the sanctions. So sanctions themselves will not be meaningful on their own. They have to be accompanied by several other things.
Thank you very much. We shall keep you updated on that particular story. Of course, all eyes are in South Sudan, just waiting to see whether the leaders, the warring leaders, will come to terms and agree on an agreement to end the warring situation we've seen there. Now, the Nairobi County government has warned of impending El Nino rains in Nairobi County from mid-August, following reports from the Meteorological Department. Speaking in Nairobi this morning, Nairobi County Executive Member of Environment Evans Ondieki has urged Nairobi residents to be more careful with the way they handle the drainage systems, warning that blocking such systems could pose a great danger when heavy rains begin.
The waters in the Eastern Pacific Ocean are warming up, and the scientific effect will be that this will bring an El Nino phenomenon that will bring rain across the globe. This is part of the global warming phenomenon that is ongoing. So predictions are that this will reach the strongest levels that we've never seen for the last 4 decades. That means that will be a serious event. It will be an extraordinary event that requires extraordinary measures to be able to address it. We want to save lives. Number 2, we want to save properties. And if we are prepared, nothing better can save residents other than an enlightened population or citizenry who are prepared to confront disaster.
We'd like to now bring in our reporter Victor Ogale, who is following the Ugenya ward election, where of course the constituents there are voting in to replace the MCA who passed on. Victor, what's the latest on this election?
Ian, I am at the Kabembo polling center, which is one of the 18 polling centers here in North Ugenya ward. And as you said, this seat became vacant after the death of MCA Benson Omondi in April. And actually, it's 3 horse race. We have Shaban Omar of ODM, we have Steve Mwanga of Jubilee Alliance Party, and Lazarus Omondi of Seno of Kanu. So tight contention is between Shaban Omar of ODM and Steve Mwanga of Jubilee Alliance Party.
And so how is the process going on so far?
Yeah, the exercise began at 6 a.m., some minutes past 6 a.m., and it's peaceful, though the turnout is not as expected. We have voter turnout of over all the registered voters in North Ugenya, more than over 9,500, but the turnout seems they might hit half the amount. The turnout is not so good.
Thank you very much, Victor Ogale, for that. Let's now cross over to this story that is good news. And now our very own journalist with a background as an entrepreneur, radio and TV reporter, presenter, has won the first BBC News Komla Dumor Award. That is Nancy Kachungira, who was selected from nearly 200 applicants. She will now spend 3 months at the BBC in London and also report from Africa for the BBC TV, radio and online. The award was established to honor Komla Dumor, a presenter for BBC World News, who suddenly died at the age of 41. Nancy grew up in Uganda, where she attended Makerere University, and she has more than 14 years of experience working across a range of media in Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, as well as a master's degree in communications from Leeds University. She's currently the anchor of KTN Prime Evening News on KTN, where she's also the channel's social media editor. There are 2 runners-up for this particular award. We had Leila D. Dugan from South Africa and Pa Kwesi Asare from Ghana. Komla Dumor was an exceptional Ghanaian broadcaster who, in his short life, made an extraordinary impact in Ghana and Africa, and of course the rest of the world. Away from that, a popular club in Rongai town, Club Legend, was Sunday evening destroyed by fire. The entire building went up in flames, destroying property of undetermined value. Locals were angry by what they termed as a late response by firefighters.
Sijajua mwanzo wa hiyo moto, tunangoja alafu tukae chini na management hapo tujue moto ulianza wapi.
Kwa muda wa miaka mitatu hii ndio moto ya 16, na hiyo mioto yote 16 tumekuwa tukipata usaidizi kutoka Nairobi, na magari hata ikitoka Nairobi haifiki hapa in time sababu ya jam. Hata nyinyi mmeshuhudia.
Welcome back. Now, former Nigeria President Goodluck Jonathan is in Kenya for a 3-day private leisure trip to the Masai Mara, where he's going to witness the wildebeest migration. Jonathan is accompanied by his wife and 2 children.
After a grueling campaign, former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan has decided to take a break and relax at the Masai Mara. Jonathan is the second dignitary to visit the reserve in less than a fortnight after King Mswati III, who visited the park 6 days ago. Narok County Governor Samuel Oletunai received the former president, who flew in 2 private commercial planes, one carrying Kenyan state security and the second with him and close family members. Tunai, who is also the tourism committee chairman at the Council of Governors, said that more than 500,000 tourists from all over the world are expected to witness the spectacular crossing of wildebeest across the crocodile-infested Mara River in the next 3 months.
And Africa is diverse, and that is time that really a great chunk of our tourists should be coming from the African states themselves. It's very important, it's very good that if instead of tourists flying all over from Chile or from Atlanta or from Japan or from Europe or wherever, it's a great honor that we are getting tourists from Nigeria, like His Excellency the former president. We get them from West Africa, from Egypt, from South Africa, and from other African countries.
The trooping in of world-known personalities to Kenya is giving the tourism industry the much-needed boost, having slumped after the issuance of travel advisories following Al-Shabaab attacks.
Let us go to another story where former Tanzanian Prime Minister Edward Lowassa yesterday held a massive rally in Tanzania ahead of the October polls. This is the first time the ruling party, Chama Cha Mapinduzi, is seen to be facing stiff competition in a general election. Lowassa will be running for the presidential seat under the opposition bloc, Chadema. He will be facing off with CCM's John Mogafu. This comes after he was eliminated for the ruling party, CCM, in July. This could be Tanzania's most heated election, as Edward Lowassa represents 4 political parties, all aiming for a new constitution. Newsdesk continues for our viewers on KTN News. My name is Ian Ofula. Enjoy the rest of the viewing.